Hello and welcome to Rich, Simple Human. I am your host, Lindsey Frances, sophrologist, psychologist, and human behaviour change expert. Today, we're diving into a topic that comes up again and again. Are you abandoning yourself emotionally? And the reason I'm here with a solo episode today is because I really want you to consider how you might better meet your own emotional needs as of today. So stay tuned to find out how transformational it can be when you actually move into right relationship with yourself. One of the biggest challenges my clients always face is knowing themselves. Of course, they can describe themselves. They can tell me that they're driving X, Y, and Z car, that they've got the following career or successes, that they're a great philanthropist or successful entrepreneur or business owner. Perhaps they've got a legacy of a business or something that they've achieved that they continue to use to shape who they really are. But do they truly know themselves, and are they meeting their own emotional needs? Let me tell you why this is so important. When we emotionally abandon ourselves, not only do we become not, but we're driving and leading very much from ego. We're in a fragile state where we're not really engaging with the world as a whole person, if you like. We're unable to meet our own needs. So what we end up doing is looking at the world and expecting the world to meet our needs for us. Now, as you listen to me saying that, I wonder if you ask yourself, can the world meet my needs, or do I have to meet my own needs? That's something you may never have actually thought about before, but the reality is the only person that can fulfill your own needs is you. The only person that can make you happy, to use a bold term, is you. And of course, we can con ourselves into thinking I'm doing all these things for other people. I'm serving, but that doesn't make us happy either, because we're engaging with other people for a sense of fulfillment. Of course, other people are also important, but we must engage with ourselves. In a world that's extremely busy, AI is rapidly increasing the pace of information flow and information creation, and technology is meaning that we're accessible and connected 24 out of every 24 hours. You do need time on your own. The first few parts of the process that I take every client through is really pause and becoming present. So you do need to stop for a moment and just ask yourself, am I in relationship with myself? Am I listening to myself? Or am I just engaging in this crazy mental chatter, this sort of heightened conversation with myself, which can become very head heavy? Or am I truly emotionally engaging in what I really need and what I really want? I've asked myself this question, of course, because for me to do the work I do need to make sure that I am continuing to make sure that I'm also in right relationship with myself. So some of the ways that you can check whether you are in this behaviour pattern or not is to ask yourself, do you sometimes say yes when you actually mean no? When you're asked a question or a suggestion is made to you, or even something down to as simple as would you like tea or coffee, are you very clear on what you really want and what you really need? Or is your default answer just a yes if you're a people pleaser? Or if you're perhaps more focused on being reflective, you might just have a default no. Or are you really able to contemplate what it is you really need at that precise moment? If I was to say to you, for your next meal, you can choose between cucumber and celery, can you tell me what you would really prefer and why? Or is there a default there where, actually, I just don't like celery? Or could you pause for a moment and think, what's the taste of celery like, as opposed to the taste of cucumber? What might I actually prefer right now? Now, those are two very subtle tastes. But if I said to you, okay, you're going to have a dessert and you can choose between the taste of oranges or pineapple, again, could you tell me which you would prefer to eat without just resorting to the subconscious default of, oh, I just prefer the pineapple? This is a really interesting thing to engage with your senses. And in Sophrology, we spend a lot of time talking about our 5 senses as a way of increasing consciousness. For those of you that don't know, Sophrology is a practice that's been around since the 1950s It was designed by a neuropsychiatrist in Spain, giving electric shock therapy to mental patients in a mental institution. And he designed a beautiful method called Sophrology, which allows us to step into consciousness in harmony. It's still used very widely across Europe, unfortunately less so in the English-speaking world. But I've had my own private sophrology practice for some time. I work with clients using a sophrology and psychology and coaching hybrid method. And let me tell you, the results are extraordinary. You can hear many of those client testimonials on the podcast as well. But are you really in touch with your senses? And therefore, are you really conscious of what your body is saying to you? If I said to you right now, can you travel your attention down to your right foot and into your big toe? Can you feel it? Take a breath. How deeply can you connect with that part of the body? Now, this is also where sophrology becomes extremely interesting for pain management, because our mind and our body are working together, and we can interrupt those pain signals and also alleviate tension in our body with our mind. Let me just check in with you now. Can you relax your shoulders if I ask you to inhale, exhale, and send your shoulders away from your ears, down your back, sliding and releasing? Can you see what I mean? You're using your mind to relax your body, and you're engaging more deeply with your consciousness. The same for meditation and visualization. When we come to just focusing on the breath, we're focusing on one of the subconscious processes that is always happening. And when we do that, we become more conscious in ourselves. So there are a few tips and tricks there to know if you're emotionally aware. Are you able to engage with your own desires and emotions? And then, of course, the next question is, how do you go about fulfilling those needs? Here's another question that I'm going to ask you. Do you go and try and soothe other people or fulfill other people's needs before your own? This is a really telling question or conversation with a client. Are you really focused on serving others before serving yourself? You will have heard it said a million times, put your own oxygen mask on first. However, if you think back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the Western world, many of us have already got our basic needs fulfilled. We have a home, housing, and income if we're fortunate, and we seem to have almost everything we need physically. So of course we go out into the world and try and make ourselves feel worthy by serving others. We might also be out in the world feeling like we might be a bit of a saviour. And of course, if you're in any kind of therapy or consulting type work or coaching a field, you will know this feeling of wanting to help others, to fix other people's problems, because it makes you feel good. Well, who's that about? Is that about the client's need, or is that about your need to feel worthy? So let me ask you again. The question here is, do you fulfill your own needs before fulfilling others? Or are you out there in the world trying to fill other people's needs or fix other people's problems before turning the attention inwards and asking yourself what you need right here, right now? What's super interesting about this question is it's very, very easy in dialogue with a client on a one-to-one basis to find out if they can articulate the problems or the challenges they see other people facing, but aren't actually able to articulate their own challenges or their own problems. I'm just going to go back to the word problems. Of course, we don't have any problems. If we accept the principles of universal or higher power, everything is exactly as it should be, right here, right now. There are no problems. However, our brain likes to create problems or anticipate problems because we are prey animals. We want to make sure we're safe. Is a wolf going to get into my tent tonight and savage me and my family? So our brains are designed to be looking for threat. But right here, right now, everything is exactly as it should be, which is why I go on and on and on all the time about being in the present moment, right here, right now, where your body is, be where your feet are. So the question is, are you looking after your own needs, or are you just out there trying to fix other people? If I said to you, just take a moment to reflect, do you know what emotions you'd really like to experience? Do you know what you might need to feel a little bit more optimal? And when I say what do you need, I'm not talking about buying a new BMW or a new holiday home or going and getting a new pair of shoes. I'm asking you what emotion you might like to experience that would enhance your feeling of being alive today. Can you answer that question? I wonder. So, are you looking after your own emotional needs first? I also say to people all the time, are you out there fixing? Because actually you feel very empty inside. And by fixing others, we think we will be able to fix ourselves. Well, it doesn't work like that. And if you listen to any other podcasts on philosophy, religion, or mindset, you'll know that it's most important that we meet our own needs, that we don't emotionally abandon ourselves and become this very fragile ego that's waiting for the world to do something for us to make us feel better. Take responsibility for yourself. Now, I'm not talking about being a narcissist, because of course that's a whole other conversation. Narcissistic type behaviour really is incredibly dangerous, and there are many, many experts out there who are able to talk about this personality type or some of these personality behaviour types, which you should watch for. If you are a narcissist, I doubt that you would be listening to this podcast, because it would be far too challenging for you to recognise some of your own behaviour. This very much egocentric, blaming behaviour where you are right all the time. However, if you are in a relationship with somebody or working with somebody like that, please beware, do your research and find a way to not engage in this sort of behaviour, which can be incredibly manipulative and very, very dangerous. Anyway, back to ourselves. Are you emotionally abandoning yourself by trying to fix other people? Perhaps you're trying to control other people. I see this a lot in parents who go out and try and control their children when actually they could be dealing with their own selves first. They're going out in the world to try and control the children or people around them because they want to be feeling more in control. Well, again, it doesn't work like that either. When you are truly whole and meeting your own emotional needs, then you feel much safer and more secure. And the need for control goes away or is minimized. I watched somebody the other day at the beach. Well, I've never seen a beach setup quite like it. The chairs were aligned, the shoes were aligned, the towels were pinned down. It was the most organized beach setup I have ever seen. And then, of course, I had the privilege of observing this family. Well, there was certainly some very high control needs going on. And why is that? Well, if you're sitting listening to this thinking, oh yes, I'm very organised and very detailed, and my cupboards are lined up with precision, my calendar is lined up perfectly, and everything is super organised, then that's wonderful. However, if it's being done because you feel the need to control to make yourself feel secure, please recognise that in yourself. Do you feel very vulnerable, angry, or cross when things change? Do you feel like you're not enjoying life when the situation around you might be changing and you can't control it? Does the unknown really create anxiety? And if so, what is it you're trying to control? And how is that making you feel? Of course, there are also the degrees of neurodiversity where we have slightly less organised personality types, or we have more chaos in people's lives. That's a totally different conversation. But just watch for your own desire for control because you want to feel secure, because you haven't managed to meet your own emotional needs. This is a great sign. And the third question I'm going to ask you today. Are you scrolling, snacking, drinking, or using distracting behaviours to avoid feeling how you really feel? Do you actually enjoy sitting with these emotions and thinking, gosh, yes, I do feel angry, cross, sad, frustrated, annoyed, disappointed? Or do you just think, this is a horrible thing and I'm going to go and distract myself with a run or a bottle of wine or some drugs or some crisps or whatever it is that you are using to distract yourself? I wonder what you would say to that. If you are using coping mechanisms or distraction techniques, scrolling, binging, and I see this a lot with exercise addiction, you're running away from yourself. If you are running away from yourself, then yes, you are emotionally abandoning yourself. What does that mean? Well, you're just ignoring your body's signals. You're not leaning into your emotions. And what you resist persists. If you resist feeling that anger and disappointment, it's just going to carry on. But when you meet it head on, you'll be amazed how quickly it disappears and you can move forwards. If you read any of the work on how emotions are made, any of the Gabor Mate books, or anything by Bessel van der Kolk, you will know that it's very, very important to feel those feelings in the body and allow them to release. Emotions are energy in motion. If we don't allow them to move through, they get stuck. And this, of course, is what leads to some complaints more chronically, like PTSD. So don't override your body's signals. Don't outsource your self-worth. Don't shame yourself instead of being kind and asking yourself questions. How hard are you on yourself? How critical are you of yourself? Can you stand in front of the mirror and think, gosh, I did a great job today? Or if it's the morning, I'm doing my best. Or do you stand in front of the mirror and think, what an idiot, and you employ some horrible self-talk? How do you talk to yourself? Because, of course, what you don't realise is how you talk to yourself is how you actually talk to everybody. So be kind to yourself and try and meet your own emotional needs. What I also see happening with clients is that they don't meet their own emotional needs and they become extremely unhappy, but they blame other people. Yourself and your emotions are your responsibility. Now, of course, if you're being traumatized or something unpleasant is happening in your life, then please seek professional help. But generally, your emotional state can be managed and controlled by you. You are responsible for yourself. So check in with yourself and ask yourself, what is it you really need? One of the most telling pieces of work I do with my clients is I ask them what it is they're looking for in other people, or what do they expect from other people? And often people will say, well, I'd like people to be more honest, or I'd like people to be more positive, or I'd like people to work harder. And of course, the trick here is what you're looking for in other people is often what you need to give yourself. So if you're going out in the world and looking for validation or worthiness, if you're going out into the world and looking to be appreciated, let me just remind you that you can turn this back in on yourself and actually ask yourself, what can I do for myself to make myself feel appreciated? What can I do for myself to make myself feel more worthy? One of the best tools I use is celebrating success. And that's celebrating your own successes, perhaps using a Sophrology technique where we go back into the past, or just by auditing what you're currently doing and feeling. And I'm not talking about celebrating success in terms of how much money you've got in the bank, how fat your pension is, or how well you're doing financially. But I'm talking about values and capacities that you're working on, that you're increasing in yourself. What is it you're bringing to the world? What is it you're bringing to yourself? How authentic are you as a human? How much are you actually stepping into your uniqueness and protecting your own anointing? That is what I mean by celebrating success, and also tracking your own effort. Tracking effort and not outcome is a great way to really help you feel emotionally connected to yourself and fulfilled, rather than abandoning yourself and just going out into the world trying to fill that void with people, places, and things. I could talk about this subject forever because it comes up in every single session with every single client, whether it's a group, an individual, a corporate, or more widely in a conversation with leaders and founders. It's also a massive part of the legacy work I do. What is it you really want to leave behind? What is your uniqueness? What is it you've been designed and anointed to bring into the world? And what is it you want to leave behind? Of course, you're leaving something behind every time you engage or connect with somebody. But when you do it from a place of wholeness, it becomes genuine, authentic, and really honest and truthful. So I'm going to leave you here because I think there are enough questions in there to keep you going for rather a long time. I do invite yourself to think about how you speak to yourself, about what needs you can meet for yourself, and also to remind you that you need to pause to do this work. So until next time, I hope that you have enjoyed the show. If you'd like to have a conversation about how you can meet your own emotional needs, please do get in touch via LinkedIn or the website or email. I absolutely love talking about how this work can be done. And the beauty of the Sophrology Toolkit is it's a practical, protocol-based approach to really stepping into consciousness in harmony.